Sick Harrison Price for Friday, January 23rd, 2026. Coming in presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the historic Walson. No.
Yeah? What's going on?
I'm just multitasking, Blake. Should try it sometime.
I've got 4 kids. I am multitasking.
Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Today might be one of those days.
Friday. It's a Friday. Friday's fight day.
Yeah, and we've worked an awful lot together recently. Anyways. Mike's in the producer's booth, hitting switches, conducting things. He's Blake, I'm Matt.
How are you? Besides being flustered.
Yeah, just
don't be nice to you?
No pleasantries? Honestly, as much as I look forward to NFL Championship Sunday, because these are the 2 biggest games you can host, right?
Yeah.
We've seen teams make it to Super Bowls that are held in their city, but it's technically a neutral venue. As much as I look forward to this Sunday every year, I do wonder whether I'm going to be underwhelmed this Sunday. We talked about the AFC game with the backup quarterback for Denver. I have thoughts on Seahawks Rams, more on that in our Bet365 segment. Also, this has not been a very good year for the NFL. Like, look at the MVP candidates. Okay, Stafford, Drake May. But I'm not sure we're talking about an iconic Super Bowl winner, although the Seahawks do have that stat in their favor about scoring 29 points plus per game, allowing 17 or fewer, and how that's like a recipe for winning a Super Bowl.
I think the Seahawks and Rams stack up. I don't think.
Okay. I'm just...
The other 2, not so much.
I'm expecting to be let down by the competitiveness on Sunday. And the other thing, the Canucks are basically playing out the string already here.
You don't think they got a chance?
And then after Sunday, no. And then, of course, after Sunday, there's only 1 football game left until the CFL gets going. So I often feel like there's a bit of a void that sets in, especially on my weekends. Like, tomorrow we're going to do things that she wants to do. And before you say it, maybe even Bed Bath & Beyond if there's time.
They're bankrupt. You can't do that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
An equivalent of Bed Bath & Beyond, but only if there's time.
Home Sense, yeah.
Exactly, that sort of thing. So, anyways, we push through. Yellow Dog poll question. Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Should Filip Hronek be the next captain of your Vancouver Canucks? You can vote yes. You can vote no. Do so at the Sick Harrison Price X and YouTube channels. What says you?
Well, we should tell you the reason why this is coming is not the captaincy, but the question is we've noticed that Filip Hronek's been trotted out a bit. He's being tested, it appears, at being the mouthpiece for the team. And it can't be by accident because he has spent years here without speaking to the media. Correct. In some cases, entire seasons.
It's a trial run. It's clear as day. It's a trial run here.
We've seen a lot of them of late. And is that the last frontier? They clearly like what they see behind closed doors, but they're seeing what it looks like with open doors.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done better than I would have expected. Still some one-word answers yesterday, as we talked about. But my answer is still no. My answer is still no. It is one thing to be the mouthpiece for this team when it is so clear that wins and losses are not the be-all and end-all anymore for this squad. Now, players still want to win every night, not denying that. But there's not a lot of gravitas in the questions because the media knows there's nothing at stake. Mm-hmm. So he's not facing any sort of fire right now. And what you need is a guy that, in the worst of times, can still be the face of your franchise.
Okay, but if this continues, he is going to have to speak after a lot of losses, Blake.
Yeah.
And we'll see how he holds up there.
Yeah, but again, the questions aren't going to be, you guys were really terrible. You guys, well, why are you folding under pressure?
Well, if it's 6-0 against Edmonton, yeah, they might be.
I mean, in the worst games, yes. But 4-3 to the Preds, you're not going to face a ton of tough questions. 4-3 to the Devils tonight. You're not going to face a lot of tough questions. So it's not a true measure right now.
Yeah.
And I still don't think he enjoys being the mouthpiece for this team.
So we talked about it yesterday. He's done very well. I mean, he's even smiling. But I'm not there yet. And I'm not there yet because, I want to see how this goes. I mean, still nearly a half season left, right? I mean, you still got 30-plus games left. And then secondly, I also want to see what they do in the summer because oftentimes with rebuilding teams, what you'll see is that they bring in like an uber NHL veteran on a short-term deal, in some cases with an eye to moving him at the deadline and collecting a draft pick, to sort of bridge the gap and make sure there are legitimate NHL players on the team. Now, I know we got a lot of fans who want to trade them all, take it down to the studs, play nothing but kids. That's just not realistic. Patrick Allvin said as much on Monday. So, a player like a Braden Shannon, Nick Foligno, Michael Backlund, although I suppose he'll just stay in Calgary, but like that level of veteran known around the league as a quality character person, I do want to see if a player like that is in the offing this coming summer, because maybe that can even just, delay Hronek's candidacy and give him more time and give him, of course, more cover as somebody is out there answering the questions and taking the bullets after what will be surely a whole lot of losing.
I certainly don't think you need to name a captain before opening night.
Correct. Rest of this season it's fine.
Yeah.
Just circulate a bunch of A's, play out the...
You need to see who joins your team.
Play out the... Yeah, of course. I mean, stands to reason.
Yeah.
You want to... It should go to your best leader. If not your best player, your best leader, right? So
we've seen fourth-line captains before.
Exactly.
It's not usual anymore. It was far more prevalent in yesteryear.
There was a time. Although, is Foligno not a fourth-liner at this stage of the game?
That made sense in the moment for them because
so young. Chicago had such a young team.
Yeah. But I think that the Canucks can expect that somebody they're drafting or have drafted are going to blossom into a good player and a good leader. And I don't know that you're rushing into anything right now.
Now, the one thing I'll say, and I do see this amongst Canucks fans, we asked the Brock Besser captain poll right after Quinn got traded, and I'm seeing it again in the replies to this. Don't name a captain this year or next year. I'm against that.
I'm not against it.
I'm multiple seasons without a captain. I mean, what does that say about your organization?
1.5 seasons.
Okay. Yeah. Multiple. What does that say about your organization?
That you're in transition, that you're rebuilding.
That you don't have a leader in your group?
No.
That's what it would say to me.
Well, come on. That is so reductionist. Like, there are leaders in every room that don't even wear a letter of any kind.
Then why not give them a C?
No, I'm saying even teams that have full captaincies and assistant captains,
right?
There's other leaders in that dressing room that aren't wearing letters. You don't need a letter.
If you feel like you don't have anybody who's qualified, holy cow, what an indictment. We don't have a leader here?
It's a long-term commitment, Matt. So why
have to be?
I think you have to expect a captain to be a 2 or 3 year minimum captain. Like Kevin Bieksa was never a captain of this team. He was probably the loudest voice in the room, and I don't mean just purely from a volume standpoint. He probably spoke more in the room than Henrik or Daniel ever did. But he wasn't the C. Don't need the letter.
Anyways, I'm for a captain to start next season. Blake is
not in any rush. Not in any rush. And certainly not for Filip Hronek.
So you're not for Hronek next year in camp?
I don't think he's the right guy.
No. So you're just anti-Hronek.
As a captain, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
He needs to. Maybe some Amigos Black Lagers would help loosen him up a little bit before media availabilities.
We were told this was a very important thing in JT Miller's world, that somebody needs to organize the social events. Now that's a captain.
Neighborhood Brewing's got the Amigos Black Lager. It's the darker side of good times. Dark lager brings a little more attitude, rich malt depth, just the right amount of smoothness to keep things easy drinking. Same spirit as the regular Amigos Lager, but a new vibe. Beer for friends, made by friends at Neighborhood.
Your son has turned into quite the mariner. When you guys are both on the boat, who's the captain now?
When we're both on, he's busy setting the lines and fishing, and I'm the driver. Yeah,
you're the captain.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
Is that in transition?
Oh no, he drives across the strait by himself all the time, so he's a capable captain himself. But if we're both on the boat, I drive and he just mans.
But when are you going to take the back seat? Is what I'm asking. There comes a point. I'm not sure you're here with your parents, but some time ago, I was told by both my parents, if we're all driving somewhere together, you're driving.
Yeah, but
they want to kick back and look at the views and all that, and so they.
But you're a smaller group yourselves,
right?
We're always a full car in and of ourselves, so not happening.
So do you drive your parents and in-laws, or do your in-laws drive you?
Everybody's still driving.
Okay,
yeah, not well, but they're still driving.
Let's get to our top story, brought to you by Pacific Blue Cross. Filip Chytil returns. Canucks centerman going to play tonight. Coming back from a 6th known concussion, although he may quibble with that. Let's bring in our Canucks reporter and the host of Rinkwide Vancouver, Mr. Jeff Paterson from Rogers Arena, who took in the events of morning skate this morning. Hello, Jeff.
Yeah, hi, guys. Not much in the way of an eventful morning skate. It was optional. It was quick. And, in fact, we were told that Adam Foote wanted to do media, so I only saw about 5 minutes of a handful of players on the ice, and then we ducked under the stands to talk to the head coach, who then confirmed that, yes, Filip Chytil will play for the first time since that October 19th game in Washington, the same game that Teddy Bluger was injured in, and hey, why not? Jonathan Lecker-Mackey was hurt that day too, so they won, but lost a bunch of players, and some might say that was the day that the season took a turn. They were 4-2 after that victory. They had won 3 in a row, and we know it has gone sideways since then. So, really interested to see what Filip Chytil, after 3 months out, looks like. He's been skating with the group since Christmas, mostly in a red non-contact jersey. He shed that out on the road and says that he's been challenged and pushed by teammates, maybe not even as hard as he would have liked. But he thinks he's ready to go, and we'll find out tonight.
Yeah, he's played just 6 games this season. He's missed the last 44. Okay, Mike, if we can play the clip where he pushes back a little bit on the concussion file, we will also get to more of Filip Chytil, where we hear from him about his return and on other matters. But, Jeff, you flagged this for us, so we'll play the clip and we'll come back and discuss. You hear this a lot, sadly, with athletes returning from concussions, where they want to quibble with the media reporting about it. In some cases, it's completely spot on because, of course, these guys tend to disappear. You don't see what they're going through. But in other cases, it's defense mechanism. Here's Filip Chytil.
I said many times, like, what I know about myself, and my closest people knows what I go through. And sometimes it's said in the media how many concussions I had and whatever, but it's just the number what I've seen sometimes. It's crazy that people can write this number when they don't know anything about it. You know, like I'm not gonna say how many concussions I had in my life, but yeah, the number what people say on the internet is crazy. I know what kind of injuries those are, and I know what I'm going through, and my closest people here as well knows. So I'm not bothered about anything, and I just want to come back and play. And how I said, there are some details in my game what I have to focus on, but yeah, I gotta go shift by shift, and yeah, it's gonna be okay.
So I've used the number 6, and I'm gleaning that from a Canucks Army story last year when he went out of the lineup with a concussion, one that was confirmed by Rick Tocchet. It is simply reporters who have covered his career counting the number of times where he has taken absences after being hit, Jeff. But you tell me, does he have a point there? Like, is 6 a crazy?
He could have set the record straight and chose not to.
Yeah. Jeff?
Right. And I've seen a lot of people pushing back that sounds like a guy that's had too many concussions, and that's what he's going to say. Now, I'm not privy to the medical charts, so is it conceivable that 1 or 2 of them were neck injuries or whiplash as opposed to diagnosed brain injury? It's a gray area. He's missed time. So I don't know that I can add an awful lot in that regard other than it was a pretty simple question, and he chose to sort of take it in that direction and get a little defiant. So, for the most part, I sounded like a guy this morning that was pretty excited to get the green light to get back in there. He has said a couple of times, because we talked to him on Sunday after practice as well, where he said, like, I'm not going to change. I don't want to change. And yet, if you continue to play straight lines and, open yourself up to these big hits, then I don't know how many more opportunities he's going to get. Now, in saying that, so many Canuck games are non-hitters these days, right? Mm-hmm. That maybe the environment right now, but in saying that too, they played Chicago late season, mid-March last year, neither team going anywhere, and Jason Dickinson decided to go rogue for some reason and drill Chytil from behind. So even in a non-hitting game, you can still run into trouble. That wasn't Tom Wilson who lined him up in the railroad tracks in the neutral zone after he dished off the puck. That was Dickinson just choosing to hit a guy from behind for no reason in a late season game. So when you step onto NHL ice, you are inviting contact. You are putting yourself in the line of fire. And he knows that. He has to know that. And ultimately, whether it's 6 or more or less, it's a lot. And I can understand the concern that a lot of people have about this player coming back in meaningless games here where he could have sat out for another 5 months and been ready for training camp. But clearly a competitor in him wants to prove to himself that he can do this for a living. And I guess we'll find out starting tonight.
I can't help but think that he's already setting himself up for unrestricted free agency and wanting to make sure that he's got enough runway underneath him that he can prove to somebody that he's worth investing in. Again, just next year under contract for the Canucks before he is a full-fledged UFA. And this is not something the Canucks can do right now, Jeff, but people have theorized that he should be a winger to preserve himself, get away from the open ice a little bit. If the Canucks can ever fortify their top 2 center positions, that might be an option. Like if you got Rossi and Paterson both healthy, do you just stack him up in the top 6 and have him as a winger for one of those lines?
I've got time for the argument. Have only seen him as a center, so probably require a little bit of observation. But on the surface, I mean, the theory makes sense that although if you're on the wing, you're also working along the walls and supposed to be battling in the corners for pucks and those types of things. And so we'll see how it goes. The idea of the Canucks having enough center depth that they could take a center and
I know, laughable.
Yes. I had a good little chuckle there, but hey, it's a Friday. So, let's move past that part of it. I am kind of curious, and also they're putting him back on, like they're plugging him in on the line with Drew O'Connor on one side and Brock Besser on the other, and we know the struggles of Brock, but he played a little bit with Brock Besser last season as well, and that to me is oil and water. I mean, everything Chytil does, he's at speed. That's not Brock's forte, and maybe the idea is to get Brock on his horse and hope that he can hustle a little bit, but those other 2 guys certainly can skate. So, David Kamp's been parked in that spot. David Kamp's actually been productive of late. I don't know where that came from. Maybe he saw that Bluger and Chytil were coming back and wanted to stake his claim for a roster spot or a spot in the lineup at the very least. But he's going to play center tonight. Now, at some point, Blake, I mean, maybe they do move him to the wing and see what that looks like. I think the other thing too here is there's 32 games to go. There's nothing that says Filip Chytil has to play all 32.
No,
right?
no.
Like if he gets
Good
a
point.
10-game set and says, okay, you know what? I did prove that I'm okay, but I am going to step aside and take the summer to completely heal and all that. Like I could understand that. Again, he's a competitor. I know deep down he wants to play, but is it in his best interest to play all 32 games in a season that is going absolutely nowhere for the hockey club that employs him?
Yeah, and no back-to-backs for the Canucks until early March. Who's coming out tonight, Jeff?
Max Sasson will be the odd man out along with Ratu. So, well, he only played 7 minutes the other night. So I'm not surprised at that with Bluger back and getting his 18 minutes. And Adam Foote did say that they would certainly monitor Chytil. They didn't have any kind of governor on Teddy Bluger. He penalty killed. He was out there late preserving the lead, ended up getting 18 minutes in his return, which I think was a number that surprised me a little bit. I would have thought it would have been more in the 14 to 15 minute range, but the game dictated. And again, there were no limitations on Bluger. I do think that there are some training wheels here a little bit on Filip Chytil. And so, yeah, I mean, you're going to have Petey. They didn't have enough skaters here for any kind of line rushes, and yesterday they were missing the 6 veterans that got maintenance days, rewarded for that first win in forever. So Adam Foote did say it would be Chytil with Besser and O'Connor, but otherwise we're left to sort of speculate. I think it'll be Kane and Paterson along with DeBrusk on the top line. And the way that Bluger played with Garland and Liam Ogren the other day, I don't know that you want to touch that. So that's just my hunch. And then David Kampf will drop down. Höglander and Linus Karlsson would be his likely wingers.
And in goal?
Kevin Lankinen, and I think it'll be Kevin Lankinen for the foreseeable future with the no back-to-backs here. I don't know that he'll get every game on the remainder of the homestand. Nikita Tolopilo has been playing down in Abbotsford. My hunch is that we'll see him recalled and get another chance next week rather than Jiri Patera, who is up here as the backup. Patera got his one game in Florida. Didn't go so well. I don't know that they're committed to getting him any more NHL action. So my hunch is that Tolopilo will play. Abbotsford's at home again this weekend, and then maybe we see Nikita get the recall sometime next week.
We rightfully gave some credit to Adam Foote for getting the veterans to perform the other night. It would be nice if it's not just an island.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if there's
an isolated incident,
yes,
if
exactly.
you will.
If it's a right back to the same old, I don't know that he gets to keep the credit anymore here, Jeff.
No, fair enough. I think they've got another opponent that's gettable here. The Devils back-to-back 2-1 wins in Alberta, but they don't score many goals. Canucks beat them 2-1 in that first game of the road trip, the first game after the Quinn Hughes trade when Zeev Buium scored and had an assist. We all thought, wow, this guy's going to be a 2-point-a-game guy. It hasn't turned out to be that for Zeev Buium, but no, I mean, the Devils have had their issues. Old friend Jacob Markstrom has not been able to stop a lot of pucks this season, and he will get the start here in goal tonight. So, again, I think the Canucks are going to have to test him and see if they can't do what they did to an Olympian. And, well, I guess Markstrom was an Olympian too, but do what they did to Logan Thompson the other night against the Washington Capitals. But, no, I mean, there does seem to be a lighter mood around this group, and you can understand. I mean, it's just one win, but after all of that losing, change can do this group good. So we'll see how they back it up. But, again, I guess they proved the other night, hey, even if they fall behind 2-0, they're not out of the hockey game. But that's probably not the prescribed way to attempt to back up one win with another, is falling behind by a couple of goals like they did against the Capitals.
Yeah, just one Hughes tonight. We used to see 3 Hugheses when New Jersey and Vancouver got together, but just one Hughes tonight. And, God, Jeff, I went through it today. So they have a 4-game winning streak this year. They have a 3-game winning streak. And is that it? Like, this would be the third time they've won consecutive games all
they went
season
forever
long?
without winning consecutive games. And then they rattled off the 4 in a row to start the road trip. It's been bleak, Matt.
Yeah, they have 17 wins. Like, you just accounted for 7 of them with those other streaks.
I know, and they haven't won consecutive games on home ice all season long. So, anyways, should be a good one, Jeff, at Rogers Arena on a rare
It's Friday night.
Friday night.
Fun.
Yeah, I'm sure the crowd will be stoked. Thank you for this, my friend. Busy weekend of rink-wide Vancouver for Jeff and the gang with tonight's game, and then, of course, you've got Sunday as well, and that's Jeff, answer me
3
this.
o'clock start.
Yeah.
Why are you doing afternoon hockey on the day of NFL Conference Championship week? Like, there's so many sports that clear out because they know they can't compete with the NFL
All
championship.
day NFL championship.
And the Canucks are going at 3 p.m. right up against the Seahawks and Rams.
Yeah, and obviously they had no way of knowing the Seahawks would be in it, but to your greater point, every year the schedule comes out and I just shake my head. The number of times Canadian teams and the Canucks in particular have been scheduled on Grey Cup Sunday, whether the Lions are in it or not.
Right.
Just steer clear. All
Right.
7 Canadian teams dark that day. And it never makes any sense to me. They steer clear of Super Bowl Sunday. They get the early games, right? There's those traditional early games, but nobody goes up against the Super Bowl. And so you're right. Like, there's no need. I have no idea why this is a 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon game with Sid the Kid in town. But it is, and that's when the puck will drop. And you're right. I think a lot of people in these parts, their attention will be focused more on football than it will on a hockey game, even though Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and Ben Kendall, by the way, making his first appearance here. So there's tons of storylines on Sunday. But, that just seems like silly scheduling on the part of the National Hockey League.
A regular puck drop, and you can watch both games comfortably.
Yeah, well, I mean, these NFL games are going to do like 35, 40 million viewers.
But 7:15, a 7:15 puck drop is 3 hours and 45 minutes after kickoff. Like, you can watch both of them easily.
Yeah, and we've done that before, where you finish the football day and then you go into the Canucks game because it starts at 7 p.m. Pacific on anyways.
And they do it on that Hockey Hall of Fame night too, is another night. Like, just go dark. Like, these are your legends you're enshrining, but oh no, Carolina is playing at San Jose that night.
Right.
And so often people that are being inducted, they're involved in the game still. They're tied up with the schedule. Like, that one just kills me every year that they go head to head with their own induction ceremony.
Yeah. Well, we'll have rink wide regardless tonight, and of course after the 3 p.m. final horn, whenever the final horn is, 5:30ish, I guess, on Sunday against the Penguins. Sidney Crosby coming to town. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, guys.
Jeff Paterson, our Canucks reporter, the host of Rink Wide Vancouver. I said we would hear more from Filip Chytil, so let's make good on that. He is excited to return.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It was a long time, and I can't wait to be out there with my teammates and finally be on the ice.
Yeah, that's the long and short of it. Thanks, Philip.
He was also asked about taking hits in practice versus a game. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, but even you can get as much contact as you can in practice, but it's never like a game, because even the teammates, when we tell them or when I tell them to push more, they always were a little bit more careful. So they're very nice to me, but sometimes it would be better when they would be a little bit more harder in those battles. But I'm okay. Like, everything's going in a great direction, and now I have to be focused on some details in my game, and that's it. I don't want to think about any other things.
And Philip, I appreciate your desire for readiness and preparedness, but does anybody want to be the teammate
No, exactly.
gave your guy a 7th concussion?
And I want to
If
address
that's
what
the
we were
correct
talking about with the play along the boards. Like, of course, there's no accounting for a rogue elbow in a puck battle in the corner. But those
Or
are
somebody hitting you square in the numbers. We've seen that too.
Yeah, but even that, Matt, in most arenas these days, like if you're up against the boards and you're getting hit, the give on the boards is of such that you are not going to get the catastrophic whiplash and motion that you will get in an open ice hit where you are stopped dead in your tracks with all that forward momentum. It just doesn't happen. That's why I think the winger thing works for him, because, can he get stapled against the boards? Ask any player. They would way rather get stapled against the boards than get
Taken out in
taken
center
open
ice.
ice. Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's something to think about when the Canucks have the personnel to make that work.
Head coach Adam Foote previewed this return yesterday, said so long as Filip Chytil got out of practice in the day, feeling fine, he'd be in. Sure enough, here he is. Foote was asked about Filip Chytil's return this morning, and here's what he had to say.
Yeah, compared to when my first conversation when it happened, and a month after, it was tough to see him in that state, and to see where he is now. Like, he's so happy and so pumped that he can play hockey, and his energy, he's just smiling, right? And it's nice to see. The players can feel it, and he was coming this year in camp and at the beginning of the season. I thought he was like really coming with something he's never done in his game. Like, he's a young guy still. And he was really in a nice spot. So we're not going to expect or put too much pressure on him as far as, it might take a few games or to get into it. But we'll just see.
He had 3 goals in 6 games.
And he was the story of the first couple of weeks. Honestly,
he was.
People were like, wow, like this guy, maybe he is a second line center. Now, we liked his goals. He is not a disher. He's not an Adam Oates disciple here. But he looked absolutely, I concur with everything he said there. He looked motivated.
That's correct,
He
Coach.
looked driven. He was skating with power and speed. It was wonderful. And then it all came crashing down.
And his 3 goals remains tied for 11th in Canucks goal scoring this year.
Amongst all Canucks or just active Canucks? You have the old names on there still?
The old names are still on there.
Yeah, amongst active Canucks, it would drop down to...
Well,
ninth,
it's only Sherwood because Quinn only scored 2 here.
Did he only have 2 here? Oh, okay, I thought he was at 4.
Let's see, is everyone else still a Canuck? Yes, all still Canucks. It could change any
Yeah,
day now.
yeah, that's true.
And, of course, as Jeff referenced, Filip Chytil is the second Vancouver Canucks center to return this week from long-standing injury. This after Teddy Bluger returned on Wednesday against Washington after missing all but 2 games this season. And Coach was really praising Bluger's return yesterday after practice. Here's Foote.
Well, that's another thing I believe in is give credit to our staff. Like, he had a long time out, and to have his legs were going. I mean, I would have backed him off a bit if I felt like his legs weren't going, but we had kills early. He wasn't on for any of the goals, but he was so sharp on it. And then, to hold a lead, there was times where I wanted to use him defensively. Even you saw in the 4-on-4, like when I put him and Garland out, I was more at 4-2, like, yeah, you get a chance, take it, but defend first. I don't think Garland liked hearing that, but he bought in for sure. I was just teasing him, but he just 16 would have been better for him, 15. But you know what? You got to look at it. These guys are pros, and the way they train. When you have a long injury, like that, you almost come back in better shape than you left usually. So, and the guys give credit again to our staff and Teddy. They say he's really easy to work with. He just does his job. So it showed last night.
Yeah, and look, it's funny because she'll put our show on the living room television.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I get home, sometimes, I don't know how the algorithm works this way, but sometimes it will bring up an old episode of our show.
Afterwards?
Yeah. And so I walk into the house yesterday, and there's an episode from you and me in August. And the first thing I got to say, Blake, is we had pretty good tans this summer.
Yeah.
We were looking quite – it was a good tanning summer for Blake and I. We were very nice, just a glow, really. Not something I say often. And Blake, we were talking about the prospects of Pavel Zacha and Casey Middlestad, the Boston centers, and the line came up. Oh, remember, Jim Rutherford said more expensive not to. We don't have the luxury. You don't have the luxury here of being too picky on a center because, and then the two of us went through the nightmare scenario of what happens if you lose a couple of centers early in the season. This was a show in August. Very predictable. We're not that smart. It was just very, very predictable. And here we are, game 51 on the season, and you've got a center lineup that looks as Jim Rutherford, Patrick Alvin hoped it would look, right? You have Elias Paterson. You have Filip Chytil. You have Teddy Bluger. Okay, you don't have Sassone tonight, but the fourth center was always going to be the afterthought. It was making sure you had those 3 guys, the 3 veteran centers. So much of this season was staked on those guys early, and here we are, game 51, and they're playing, their 3rd game together?
And
all year?
Dare to dream. And for the Tank Commanders, they won't like this. But, I mean, if Rossi comes back in 2 weeks' time,
yeah,
you're even more flushed. Now, I'll say
believe it or not, you're okay at center versus the rest of the league.
Tenuous, but you're in those moments okay. I will say this too. Like, Teddy Bluger is a very good fourth line center because of what he does on the penalty kill as well. Like, if he's able to stay healthy and able to have more games like he had in his debut, Matt, you'd be silly as a contending team not to look at Teddy Bluger as a fourth line option for yourself. He might even be your 13th forward,
as he was for Vegas.
Yeah. I like that. He would be a very, like, again, because of the penalty kill stuff. Yep. Like, that's a nice player to have around.
Yep.
We'll see. We're not going to put it's game one for him, but if he continues like this, I mean, that's another move for the Canucks that might give you
third round pick.
Yeah.
If he plays well from here, I think you can maybe get a third round pick for him. I think teams will probably offer fourth, fifth, something in that range to see, do they want to hold it out, press it right to the deadline? I don't know. Obviously weren't willing to with Kiefer Sherwood. But, yes, I think you can return a middle-round draft pick for Teddy Bluger. Okay, so here it is. And I'm glad anytime I go about trying to construct look at a stat about the Canucks season, I just always feel in a better place if I run it by JPat. Just make sure Jeff signs off on it because you know how he is.
Yeah.
They've got a 4-game winning streak this year. They've got a 3-game winning streak this year. That's it. They don't have consecutive victories outside of those 2 streaks. The last time they won 2 in a row was in the body of one of those longer winning streaks. They beat the Islanders December 19th, 4-1 on the island. It was one of their better games of the season, frankly. They were excellent, full value. And they followed it up the next day with a shootout victory in Boston. That was December 19th, December 20th, so more than a month ago. First consecutive wins, having just snapped the franchise worst 11.
But again, never on home ice.
Exactly. This would be the first time winning consecutive games on home ice at Rogers Arena.
And they still do have a pretty big season ticket block. And so for those season ticket holders that are there most nights, they haven't had the experience of going on back-to-back games, not back-to-back nights, but back-to-back games, and seeing victories.
Correct.
It's crazy.
In fact, as you talk about Pacific Blue Cross, I'm going to look up when is the last time they actually won consecutive games on home ice.
The good news is that they have won a fair amount away from home, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I can tell you that Pacific Blue Cross would like to show you more wins because they want to take you on the road. The ultimate Canucks road trip. Get Pacific Blue Cross travel insurance. You can also have your chance to see the Canucks take on the Kings in Los Angeles. You can work on your tan, complete with flights, hotel, lower bowl tickets, and more. No purchases necessary. Contest ends February 28th. You got some time, but don't waste it. Enter now at pacificbluecross.ca/Canucks. 10 road wins. It's double the ratio that you're getting at home. So you have a way better chance of seeing them win that game in LA than you do even tonight versus the Devils.
March 5th and 7th last year, they won consecutive games on home ice, beating the Anaheim Ducks 3-2 and the Minnesota Wild 3-1.
Now, they've got a lot of home games still left on the schedule, but
they got 5 more in this homestand alone, Blake.
But it is conceivable that they could get to the 1-year mark without back-to-back home wins.
Oh, my goodness. Don't even say that.
It's on the table.
Don't even say that.
It's on the table.
Buddy, I got news for you. That was the only time last year they won consecutive games on home ice.
At home, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now, they've got a lot of home games in March, too.
Yeah, they got another 8-game homestand.
But you said it was March 4th?
March 3rd and 5th were the dates.
So you've got the 5 here and 2 more at the start of it. So you've only got 7 games.
So better get it here.
You better get it. The clock resets. If you lose this, we're back to square one. It's the downside.
Please get it here. Please, please. Pretty please. Abby, Baby Canucks, they got their rings in a ceremony at Rogers Arena yesterday. Now, they look sharp. Of that, there is no doubt. I mean, there's not many of these things that don't look sharp.
I did think that the logo was too big and took up too many jewel spots, but I'll say this. They clearly...
Well, that logo is not bejeweled, huh?
No. They clearly go to the same spot. I wanted to see if they were being cut short because there's no jewels on the side either. It's just the logo on the side.
Were you counting jewels?
I wasn't counting jewels. I was just looking at surface area covered in jewels.
Mm-hmm.
They all come from the same factory, folks. It is basically the same ring that every AHL champ
So
gets.
the whole deal about an elaborate design and all that.
No. It's from the same factory. Like you go look at, every single team does the exact same thing. A logo in the middle that is non-bedazzled.
Champions below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same.
So maybe they just forgot, or maybe they were just trying to cheap out and got caught.
Apparently, there's a story out there I heard from somebody that said there is a story that isn't about that, but I never got it. So, until then...
People don't want to give you the benefit of the doubt because you don't understand goodwill as an organization.
And that's the thing. With this ownership group, people, most often, it's right to assume the worst.
Yep. Good story here from Harm Dial on The Athletic about Evander Kane and how a couple of strong nights from him this week, and he was excellent Monday against the Islanders and scored again on Wednesday, helped create a goal on Wednesday against Washington, and how a couple of strong nights from him are linked to the Sherwood trade. Of course, Adam Foote has fewer options on the wing and fewer options with guys who play that physical style. So the trade watch is on with Evander Kane, and we'll see who lines up to be his, if there is a lineup to acquire his services by March 6th. Harm also pointing out, and I meant to talk about this, was it Monday? Yes, Monday. And it brings me no joy because we all had high hopes for this young man, and there's still runway, but it's getting short. Victor Mancini is failing out here as a National Hockey League defenseman. Demoted this week, looked horrible Saturday against Edmonton. Looked like you couldn't have him on the ice against some of those Oiler players. And, of course, they kicked Tom Wilander to his offside, the left side, for Mancini to play. And I just don't think the club is going to continue to do that. They have a bigger stake in Wilander. They want Wilander to be a top four right side defenseman on his proper hand.
Structure it for success.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're not going to get many more of those opportunities, Victor Mancini, where you get to play your strong side and the rookie moves for you. He's not tearing up Abbotsford offensively, Blake. It's very few points there. I mean,
he hasn't played a ton down there.
He hasn't played a ton, but that was the one thing about him is that he was just so comfortable on the puck and rushing the puck in the AHL to the point where he was a offensive factor for the Calder Cup champions last year. But that's not the case this year.
I'll give him one more excuse, though. Like, when he played the bulk of his games early this season, the Abbotsford Canucks were not an AHL team.
They were awful.
Like,
awful.
Beyond awful.
Okay.
And so I think that has to come
What's
into
he
play.
got? How many games and how many points?
7 points now in 22 games.
Okay.
They're better now. They're a little bit better now, so he should be able to show a little bit better.
Right.
With the current.
He's a restricted free agent after the season. Now, if they trade Tyler Myers, there will be right side minutes available in the National Hockey League. And you would think that that's maybe Mancini's last chance here. If that comes to fruition, we talked about the Myers trade yesterday. He opened the door a sliver to a trade here this year with the no move where he could dictate his destination as opposed to in the summer when he's down to 19 teams that the Canucks could move him to. Protection on 12.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Okay, maybe minutes are going to be available for you here at the NHL level if there's a Tyler Myers trade. The other thing, Blake, is we talked about it earlier in the week. These guys have mostly done hockey trades, couple of cap dump trades. It's time to get creative, gentlemen. Jim Rutherford, Patrick Alvin. We're talking to David Pagnotta here in a moment, and one of the things that David mentions is that moving Kiefer Sherwood has reinvigorated trade talks around Canucks players. Like other teams are like, oh, okay, here it comes. Vancouver is selling off. Let's get to the Canucks marketplace. What about this guy? What about that guy? If you need Victor Mancini to grease and facilitate a trade by throwing him in, I think that's got to be on the table now too, Blake.
Why are you anti-Mancini?
I didn't want it to get to this point because I love the kid's story. I love his size, athletic ability. He moves pretty well. The hands are pretty good. But he gets to the National Hockey League and he treats the puck like a grenade. Like all the confidence you see with him on the puck in the American Hockey League just evaporates. And I do think some of it is NHL coaching, right? Going back to Foote and what he said in preseason about, oh, we got to rein this guy in a little too much of carrying the puck through multiple zones. So I'm not sure it's all of his fault. And I'm not anti-Victor Mancini. I'm just saying, look, we had this conversation about Nils Höglander once. Nils Höglander's failing out before our eyes too. And at $3 million a year. You don't want to be hanging on to these guys when they completely lose prospect status, Blake. That should be one of the lessons of the last 12 years. Move them while they still have value.
He's been in the organization for 10 months.
11.
I think he is worth keeping around for one more training camp to see what he has.
Okay, he's RFA, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
You're just going to give him the qualifying offer and that's that? Okay.
Yeah, doesn't have a leg to stand on, so.
Does he not have arb rights?
Well, I know, but take him to arbitration. What's he going to get in arbitration?
Okay.
Done nothing.
Well, he does have arb rights. If he's done nothing, then why are you keeping him?
Because you've traded for him and you've not given him a legitimate look.
How many NHL games over these 2 years?
24. 25.
Combined?
Yes, combined.
Okay.
Yeah. A 9-game stretch this year.
How many more games do you think he deserves before you're getting to a crossroads with him?
You've only had your developmental mitts on him for 11 months.
Yeah.
So you certainly deserve to give him 2 training camps worth of coaching from your coaches, and then you get a lay of the land about how he's playing. One training camp and you trade him?
When you say your coach, it may be another coach.
No, but Manny's a training camp too. So,
no, what I'm saying is I'm not sure Adam Foote is going to be the head coach in next year's.
No, I know, but
camp.
Manny was at this training camp. Like the AHL coach always helps in the NHL camp.
Sure.
And then he's going to be at this upcoming camp.
I could see Manny being the head coach at this upcoming camp if he's not the AHL coach. Yep. I can also see Manning wanting to get out of Dodge here too.
Yep. If he doesn't like the way that this all this. Now, again, there's
only
this
30. This is not going to be set up for you to be successful in your first tour as an NHL bench boss, Blake.
Well, there's only 32 jobs though. You don't generally get too picky, especially for your first one. And secondarily, I think he's going to want to see what happens this spring and this summer before he makes a final opinion on what this team looks like.
It's trade season. Matt Larkin's trade board at the Daily Face-Off has dropped, and this one's a little different. It's not a pure ranking of 1 through 50 or 1 through 20 or whatever arbitrary number people come up with. This is categories, not rankings. So Evander Kane, Teddy Bluger, and Lucas Reichel, of all people, made Larkin's obvious trade candidates. We've talked about a couple of them here. Elias Paterson, Jake DeBrusk, Connor Garland make the names to keep an eye on category.
I think that's fair.
I think that is quite fair. Of course, in the case of DeBrusk and Paterson, you've got full no-move clauses there. They dictate the proceedings. Connor Garland, his no-move clause kicks in on July 1st. Until then, you could send him to any of the other 31 NHL teams without requiring his permission.
Is it a failure? Let's look at it this way. You've got a bunch of veteran players under contract that are all in and of themselves difficult-ish to move for varying reasons, whether it's their cost, production, age, all of that. But do you have to be motivated by if you're Canucks management, to move one of those guys? Like, if you don't move any of those guys, if you stand pat with all of those veterans, is that a failure?
Which veteran? What's your
just one of that group? One of
Blake, I've been saying since
Garland,
the Quinn Hughes
DeBrusk,
trade.
Paterson.
I've been saying since the Quinn Hughes trade. You have to move. Well, at the time I said Demko or Garland. Demko, you're not moving anymore. So for me now, and I've said it to you before, are you truly understanding the exercise pivots on a Connor Garland trade.
Yep.
If you're keeping Connor Garland, to me, it's a signal that you're looking for shortcuts. Because the no move kicks in July 1st. You're paying him till 35 years old. Somewhere along the line, if Connor Garland starts failing out, and remember, this is a 45 to 50 point player, right? This is a middle six player. This isn't a top line winger. If somewhere along the line, Connor Garland starts failing out of that contract, either because he's getting too old or he's too hurt or the production just isn't there, particularly the production with a rebuilding team that isn't going to have a lot of firepower at center, at least we don't think. But there will be a point in that extension where it's not looking like a great contract. That day is very foreseeable. It is very predictable. So get ahead of it. Move him now while you can to the entirety of the league.
That's it. A lot of people will say they're not in any cap. They're not going to be shopping for free agents. They don't need cap space, yada, yada, yada. It's not about cap space now. No. It's about cap space 3 years from now when you're still in the middle of those guys' contracts and their production is likely waning.
Right.
You're making a trade now for cap space in 3 years.
And for assets now on Garland.
And the assets now when
Absolutely
he's worth the most.
Is assets coming back for Garland.
And even if you could trade him in 3 years, you're not going to likely get what you're getting now.
So that one is one where you move on it, and you move on it now. We both have argued Hronek is a different story. He's younger. He's in all situations top pair right side D. One of the scarcest commodities in the National Hockey League. Garland is a middle six winger. One of these things is not like the other.
One thing I want to bring up with you.
And Hronek's on a good deal at 7.25.
Is you bring up understanding the exercise here. So not the last time I'm going to bring this up. Just prepare yourselves.
Oh, no.
With the Canucks already, with 4 picks in the first 2 rounds for the first time in franchise history.
If they use them. If they use them, it's the first time.
And all sorts of chatter in the chapters 1 through 9 of Jim Rutherford interviews in the last 10 days. Mentioning the 2026 draft and the want to get draft picks for that draft. Matt, what do you bet that if they can add another pick or maybe 2 in the top 2 rounds, or even if you just start to accumulate in the top 3 rounds?
Well, I think if you're moving Garland, you probably are getting another pick in the top 2 rounds this year.
What do you bet? After all is said and done, they're going to say sometime this summer, maybe as soon as post-draft. Really, folks, with the amount of picks that we got this year in this draft, it's like we've spent 3 years rebuilding because we had so many draft picks. This is 3 years worth of top 2 round picks. So we might dip a toe in free agency. We might do X, Y, and Z. What do you bet that refrain comes out? We've had so many picks in the first 2 rounds. It's like chance. 2 or 3 years worth of drafts. So we're kind of done.
So first of all, I'm
worried about that.
I think Garland and Myers are avenues to picks in the first 2 rounds this year.
Yeah.
I don't think you're getting a first for Myers, but a second I could see. I think there's a fair chance at that. I think there's a fair chance you could hear that as soon as July, though I would forecast it a little further down the road. But Blake, on free agency, the object has changed a little bit, and this is something I think we should recognize and start talking a lot more about on the program. Because, yeah, of course, if you're a rebuilding team, you don't want to be blowing your brains out in free agency, especially on long-term contracts, in the traditional sense. Mm-hmm. But cap space is abundant now. So hoarding cap space is less of a winning strategy. Yeah. Cap space isn't the asset it used to be in a flat cap world for a half decade. Talent accumulation is more important now. So I would not be surprised if they're in on free agency. I would not be surprised because it's them if it's a longer term deal, a longer and more expensive term deal on a more frontline player because they just can't help themselves. But also, Blake, and this was something that I'll give him credit, Kyle Dubas did this quite well in Toronto. You sign veterans to 1 or 2 year deals, fully understanding that the object is to move them at the deadline for more young assets.
UFA gardening.
And so that is exactly, that's a great way of putting it.
Fertile ground.
But that also increases your talent accumulation as well.
Yep.
So don't for a second think that because the Canucks are in a rebuild, they're going to be sitting on their hands on July 1st.
Well, the latter scenario, I see a lot more than them going to get. Because, Matt, the problem with if you go out and sign a 7-year contract for a decent player, you might be decent then. And you might be back to finishing 12th last in the league, and you're back to getting an okay prospect. If you're not gonna make Blake, the playoffs, be bad.
That's when we took so many players so high up this 26th draft. It was like 2 years of rebuilding.
We don't feel that we really need to be at the top of the draft anymore.
Absolutely.
Just be ready, folks.
Honestly, that's a good shout, Blake, and that it comes at the end of this first segment on a Friday is probably the tonic we needed to get along for the rest of the show.
No bad takes to set you off.
Yeah.
Man.
Or just annoy.
Yeah.
I had mid-segment here, I had my doubts, folks. It's got off on the wrong foot, and it was moving in a direction where I was like, okay, any minute now.
I'm glad we survived.
Well done, partner. Another one. Time now for the menu, brought to you by our friends at Greta. Fantastic spot to pregame or postgame. You are mere steps from the arena or the stadium. And if you're organizing a group activity, check out Greta. Office party, team party, family reunion, whatever. The food is absolutely delicious. The poutine really feeds too. Just know that when you're ordering the poutine, it can basically feed two. The tacos are delicious as well. Then you have the arcade around the bar. Wonderment, sensory overload, plus all the screens. You can watch the games. So check it out. Go to gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We're going to talk to NHL insider David Pagnotta here, the fourth period and DFO Insider Edition on Wednesdays with Irf. He had the big report about Shane Wright being available with the Seattle Kraken. I see Darren Dreger's followed up on that as well, saying you better be prepared to put a very good player in play. Top line, certainly top six if you're in the Shane Wright sweepstakes in Seattle, but that's a very attractive player if you're a rebuilding team like the Canucks. We talked about it on yesterday's program.
Garland and Mancini for Shane Wright.
Oh, and it's a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, Blake, I would do that. David also tells us about the end game and moving Kiefer Sherwood, the brass tacks we got down to last week. Also talk a little bit about the Dallas Stars, Jason Robertson. I know he's a name that a lot of Canucks fans are looking at because he's an RFA and he's third in the league in goals right now. And then later in the program, Captain Gregg Bell, beat reporter, Seahawks, Tacoma News Tribune. Second Friday in a row with Captain Bell. As we look forward to the Rams and the Seahawks from Lumen Field Sunday in the NFC Championship game. We'll discuss all these Seahawks injuries, the offensive tactics and strategy at hand here for Seattle with O-lineman injured, with the quarterback who's got an oblique issue and may not be throwing the ball as comfortably as he would hope, with running back Zach Charbonnet out and going to miss the rest of the season. And we also get him to evaluate this sucker for us, because NFC Championship games in Seattle, they've been outstanding, extraordinary in the past. Later in the program, we'll get into some footy. Well, later in the program, we'll get into Dick Hammer.
Excuse me?
We'll also get into some footy news, tennis, and more. That's all coming up on the program.
Connor Garland and the Canucks second round pick, 32nd overall.
Yeah. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day, Mr. Price.
I got my
I
win.
took a future. I saw that. I took a future. You got a win, so lead us off.
Did you see that first 4 minutes of that game? The Penguins scored 3 goals in 37 seconds.
I only saw it because you texted it to me and we're early celebrating a Bet365 win.
Yeah, if they had come back, I would have been a little bit meek there. But they did not.
It would have been a show item today if they had come back.
Okay, I'm going to do this, not because I want to put any pressure on them. I'm just going to do this because, and I wish the number was a little bit bigger, but these sort of just storybook stories kind of happen sometimes. Filip Chytil, a point tonight, plus 130. It's as simple as that.
I like it.
He may not even play that particular well, but sometimes it just lines up. That guy returns to the lineup, and he somehow ends up on the score sheet, plus 130.
I'm going to upset some audience members here. I'm preparing for backlash, but here goes.
Okay.
I think the Los Angeles Rams win Sunday, and I think they make it look easy. When I'm
Love it when you're wrong.
picking big games, I look at quarterback, head coach, pass rush. With the exception of pass rush, which I think is close between the two teams, I think quarterback and head coach are firmly in the Rams' favor. And I say that as a big Mike McDonald fan, but the fact of the matter is Sean McVay has won a Super Bowl, and he's won this game 2 times. I am gravely concerned about Seattle's left tackle spot, especially given Sam Darnold's struggles with turnovers and sacks in the past, and especially with a weakened running game minus Zach Charbonnet, who was their pass-protecting running back. It took miracles, plural, for Seattle to beat the Rams last month. The Rams statistically have been dominant in these head-to-head meetings. Now, I root Seahawks when they're playing anyone other than the Bears, so I'd be delighted to be wrong here. And if I am, I sure know you guys will let me know after this screed. But I think the Rams are sitting on a big game, either Sunday or in the Super Bowl, maybe both. LA minus 13.5, paying at plus 580.
13.5?
I am laying just under 2 touchdowns in this game.
Whew. That's
Basketball Phil is going to be all over me.
If you're wrong, we're not going to hold your, feet to the fire on it. We'll just slough it off.
JPat will be in for me Monday. This segment presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. David Pagnotta next. So Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
This segment brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. If you want to have fun driving again, we suggest you go take one for a test drive and then purchase one or lease one immediately. Get the smile on your face, especially on a day like today. The sun is out. Think of that sunroof in front of you. Think of the pep when you just slightly push down on the gas pedal and you're off and running. It's a lot of fun to drive. You'll be passing by the gas station a lot more often with 72 kilometers of daily electric range, providing you remember to plug it in, of course. That's the plug-in part of the hybrid. But go take one for a test drive and let it speak for itself. And they've got them on a fabulous deal right now. You can lease the SE for $109 weekly and That's with 3,300 down, 3.99% APR for 64 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today.
Nice crisp day for a test drive.
Yeah.
Here in southern British Columbia. Let's welcome in our friend David Pagnotta, the fourth period DFO Insider Edition, Wednesdays with Irf Gafar on the Nation Network. How you doing, fella?
I'm freezing. It's cold over here. Like polar vortex action going on. It's currently, as we're doing this, minus 30. So, yeah, it's not great. It's not great. But thankfully, indoors, it's warm. These lights are keeping me warm, so it's good.
David, we need to get you to L.A. You got to start spending more of your time in L.A. again, brother. Like 30 below polar vortex. You're West Coast. We don't do these things on the West Coast.
No, I was just there. I came back on Wednesday. I left at it was 24 degrees.
Oh.
I landed in Toronto, went straight to the rink to watch the second half of Detroit-Toronto. And now I'm dealing with this. And then we've got 30 centimeters of snow coming on Sunday. So
lucky you. Good day to
big wins over here.
Hole up inside, watch football with 30 centimeters of snow coming down Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
Buddy, we were eyes popping on your Shane Wright report with the Seattle Kraken. So for those who missed our show yesterday and those who missed David's report, tell us what's up with the young centerman in Seattle.
Yeah, the Seattle Kraken, Jason Botterill, their GM, willing to listen and willing to dangle Shane Wright. Now, they're not trying to get rid of him in terms of just giving him away. They haven't given up on him. But this is a team that since the summer has been looking for effectively a top-line guy, a top-line winger. And they've been exploring the market. They were connected and they had interest around the draft in Jordan Kyrou with St. Louis. Obviously, they weren't able to pull that off. But they're looking again and continuing to look. And Shane Wright is a piece that they're willing to dangle in order to get a big fish. And he's in the second year of his ELC, another year on that one, young, controllable. His minutes have fluctuated quite a bit. My understanding is there's a little bit of frustration from his camp with regards to his usage lately. He's played under 10 minutes twice already on the season, most recently on Monday. And effectively, it's a result of his overall performance. They want him. And clearly he's got to earn. Everybody has to earn their ice time. But they've expected a little bit more out of him. They expected a little bit of an incline to this point. He's wanted more ice time, but there's still a lot of talent there and a lot of potential that the Kraken view and a few other teams as well. But if they can get their hands on a top six, preferably a first-line quality winger, it sounds like that's what they're looking to do. And Shane Wright is available. A few teams have told me about him over the last 7 to 10 days, and it hasn't cooled down. Now, some other teams are starting to poke around. Like the Winnipeg Jets, for example, are a team looking to solidify and reestablish their second line. They're a team that I believe has interest in Shane Wright. I'm not sure that is there. Cole Perfetti's name has also been kind of tossed around a little bit as Winnipeg looks for something similar to Seattle. So there might not necessarily be a correlation here. And I don't get the sense that they want to swap one young guy for another, per se. It looks like Seattle is more inclined to go bigger fish, more proven quality in the top six. And Shane Wright's a little carrot right now that they're dangling.
And the question is, for a guy like that, how much value does he still have based on his pedigree? And he's a little bit of a victim of starting his career so early too, right? Like I think of guys like Lafreniere and Chytil and Kakko, players that were, I'm just named 3 Ranger draft picks in a row, but they get rushed so early that it feels like they're past their expiration date. But because they started so early, they feel like a bust, and yet they're 21. Just 22. But it'll be interesting to see what the league decides that Shane Wright is still worth, even though he is still so young.
There is, as I mentioned, there are teams that have interest, and a lot of those teams believe that different scenario, different environment is going to help him kind of exploit those talents, exploit that potential in the right way. And that's where the conversation currently is. Where's the fit? And again, from Seattle's side of things, they want an upgrade. And whether it's, now or down the road, they want a piece that they can bring in that fits the core of the team that they can move forward with. This isn't, them packaging them up for Artemi Panarin, for example.
No.
This is, again, Kyrou-esque. So somebody in their mid-20s that is controllable, that has term, that is established. And that's what they're looking at, right now. And again, there are teams that like the potential, like what they see, and feel they can get that out of him. It just obviously hasn't so far worked in Seattle. But, again, it's tough sometimes when your minutes are fluctuating. 1 minute, one game you're 15 minutes, next game you're 12. One after that you're 13, then you're at 9.5, and so on and so on. So it's been a bit of a juggling act right now as he also tries to find his footing. But again, for now, available in a sense of if they find that piece, that's one of the centerpieces of a trade that they're willing to put into a package to make it work.
Yeah, 3 coaches there too: Hackstall, Bilesma, and now Lambert. Does Connor Garland qualify? Have you heard the Canucks connected to Wright at all?
I haven't in terms of Garland. I'm sure there's going to be some interest. I think a lot of teams have checked in on Wright. To what extent those conversations have gone, I'm not sure. And with the Canucks, yes, they are having conversations, continue to have conversations with teams around the league about Connor Garland. As we know, his no movement clause or no trade, whatever it is, doesn't kick in until July 1. There is runway here for them to explore a move, be it now ahead of the deadline or at the draft. But there is interest. And, the Canucks continue to have the conversations with clubs on a number of their guys. We've obviously been hearing the PD stuff and Jake DeBrusk's name's out there. There are other players as well. But it sounds like Garland and probably DeBrusk, but I'd say Garland right now over this last week. At least the conversations have been a little bit more vibrant. And I'm also including some internal discussions with some of the teams that view him as a potential target to go after that have had loose discussions with Alvin and Rutherford to this point. But Vancouver continues to be in a position to listen. And I think after, usually when teams are in selling mode, you move one piece and Kiefer Sherwood, teams start calling about some of the other guys. So it's almost reinvigorated some of their discussions. But Garland right now, an attractive piece for a lot of teams. But the Canucks also like him. So they'll listen, but it's got to be a move that makes sense for them.
Are you feeling like there is some shoes to drop here before the Olympic break? Because the chatter seems to be up, but that could still it still be because of the freeze. We're actually, only a few weeks away from the trade deadline in terms of workable calendar. Right. So I don't know if the chatter is just with that long game in mind, or is it actually working towards the Olympics?
No, look, we're 12 days out from the Olympic freeze. And then after it lifts, we're another 12 days until the trade deadline.
Yeah, so it's 3 weeks.
Conversations like teams are active in these conversations. And I think depending on where some guys go, like Artemi Panarin in New York, some teams like the fact that you've got this window where players can just take their time into getting acclimated to their new team, new surroundings, and so on. He's not going to the Olympics. You've got that when all the teams come back to practice on February 17th, games don't start till the 25th. You've got some runway there to get used to your environment and all that fun stuff. So I think there's more, like for guys like him, for example, who are obviously going to be on the move and one of the prime candidates to be traded right now. There's an appetite to see if they can make this happen over these next 12 days, before the Olympic freeze to make something work. If not, then okay, we've got another 12 days of runway, and obviously teams can talk within the Olympic break. But it does sound like there are teams that would like to get business done sooner, and we saw a little bit with Sherwood and obviously Anderson the day before on Sunday. But there are other teams that wouldn't mind getting those little bits of business done in advance. I think New Jersey is still in a position, even with Luke Hughes out of the lineup and placed on LTIR, where the preference there with Dougie Hamilton is to make something happen over these next 12 days. Again, no guarantees, and there's no guarantee with him until the trade deadline either. He's $7.4 million cap hit, bonus, that kicks in on July 1 as well. He's got a $9 million cap hit. So there are teams that are willing to navigate that. But if it doesn't happen, expect July to be active for him. But there are, again, with this trade deadline junior kind of in the mix, there are teams that find this as an appealing time, a beneficial time to pull it off if they can get some housekeeping done.
David, we have a lot of Canucks fans asking about Jason Robertson, who's RFA to be. Not a member of the U.S. Olympic team, surprising to some. And, of course, Dallas made the huge move last year with Mikko Rantanen, bringing him over from Carolina after the Hurricanes tried and failed to get him re-signed. What are you hearing on Robertson? Like, is Robertson, could he be the biggest piece to move here alongside Panarin by the deadline?
I'd be very surprised if Jason Robertson is moved this season. I'd be a little bit surprised if he's moved at all, but I'd be borderline shocked if the Dallas Stars move away from him this season. Their eye is purely fixated on going after a Stanley Cup and winning a Stanley Cup. They've got cap flexibility because of LTRR space, because of Tyler Seguin as well. They haven't shut him down for the full season yet. They're still figuring that out, and I think a lot of this will be determined with respect to what they may be able to add ahead of the deadline. But they're a team, as I said, fixated on going after a championship. They want to bring in a top 4 defenseman. They were in on Rasmus Andersson. They want to bring in somebody who can fit their top 6. They'd had interest in Kiefer Sherwood. I think Blake Coleman is still a target for them, among others. But I find Dallas to be exclusively in the buyer window and then figuring out Jason Robertson after the fact. If they win a cup, if they don't win a cup, that's more likely something to occur in the summer if they can't get him signed. We all know what he's doing this season, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because of the U.S. situation with the Olympics, and there's still a little bit of runway there, so maybe somebody gets hurt. He might be next man up. But still, with his performance this year and what he means to this group, they have an understanding of what the ballpark is, and it's Mikko Rantanen type money. In that ballpark, I don't know if it's just under, it might be a little more because it's a year later, and obviously market changes. But I would be, as I said, borderline shocked if they go in any direction this season. That's not keeping him. I expect the Canucks and every other team in the league to poke around. There were reports on Pittsburgh have him high on his list. I think there are other teams as well that would view, and I would fully expect a team like Seattle, a team like Utah, Carolina, and others to be engaged in this, significantly engaged in this. But I don't anticipate that happening until at the earliest the summer.
I asked you about deadlines earlier. Let me rephrase it in this way. There's only the Canucks and the Rangers are more than 7 points out of the playoffs. Is it still a seller's market? Do you still think that those teams that are 7 points back, the Senators and Blue Jackets in the East and teams like the Blues and the Flames and the Jets in the West, are those teams still thinking about trying to make a playoff push? Or do the Canucks have to worry about getting a lot of company in the seller's market if they don't act soon?
I think we're getting there. There are some teams that are utilizing the Olympic break to figure out, like Columbus, for example, they're pending UFAs, be it Boone Jenner, Charlie Coyle, who just played his 1,000th game yesterday. They have some other pieces there. Can we get you signed? Let's go through this over the Olympics. And if there's a pathway, we'll focus on it. If not, no hard feelings, but we're going to try to trade you. We got to recoup some assets. They're in that boat with their players. Ottawa wants to add. They're looking to find ways to bring. This is another team that's looking at the decor, especially on the right side and up front. They want another winger to bring into that mix that can help with the puck in the net. This would be another team that would certainly pursue a Jason Robertson, but later. And then in the West, St. Louis is open. Like they're nothing has changed from that perspective. Mm-hmm. They're listing on almost anybody. Obviously, the price tag for a Kyrou, the price tag for Thomas is very significant, but they're willing to have those conversations. So they're in that mix. I think Nashville is still kind of hovering and willing to have some conversations as well, but they've got a lot of pending UFAs also. So I think the next couple of weeks here before the freeze is going to dictate what a team like them, like the Nashville Predators, are going to do after the freeze with respect to selling. Calgary in a similar boat, there as well. So right now, these next 2 weeks are really going to help define how the seller's market is going to look going into the trade deadline, and how active things will be after the Olympic freeze. Again, teams can still have conversations. There's nothing preventing teams from negotiating trades and trying to figure things out, and even agree on deals. But it can't be official until the freeze lifts. But I think a lot of teams are going to be utilizing that time, especially from the 17th on. Guys are going to go on their vacations and unwind a little bit, watch the Olympics from the beach or wherever they're going. A lot of guys are going skiing too. So we'll see some guys up in the mountains doing that, some guys on the beach doing that, even including some management types. And then afterwards, get some of that movement, hopefully, right around the 25th and on of February going into that March 6th deadline.
How about Stamkos with a hat trick? 24 goals now for Stamkos.
You guys be careful on the slope. I didn't think they were allowed to ski. Was it Patrice Brisebois all those years ago got caught skiing when he was out injured with the Montreal Canadiens? Boy, if I'm a GM and my guy says, I'm going to shred some pow heli ski, I'd be like, oh.
Let the kids and the wives and everything, they hit the slopes. The guys are going to be, there's some guys going to, Mammoth Mountain in California, guys going in Montreal, some guys are going to Vermont and whatnot. But, it's different. Some guys like the warm weather. Some guys like the family atmosphere of the maybe it's après ski that just gets it.
I was going to say they should specialize in après. Not exactly.
Hot chocolate,
lastly, David, for me, last week you told us the Canucks had softened on the Kiefer Sherwood ask. Sure enough, Monday we saw the deal with San Jose. Just take us through the end game there with Sherwood and how it all played out.
I think they just came to the realization, I think they accepted the fact and the realization that their price tag was just not going to be met. And they held firm for a while. I give them credit. They tried. First round pick plus in order to make it happen. But, we talked about this on the show about a month ago. They had offers of a second and third. I think one team threw 2 seconds at them. Might not have been the same year. It might have been a gap in between. But they had said no. They tried to hold out for a first plus. And then towards the end of last week, started to notify teams that, okay, we're willing to explore alternative options here. And they did. They got, their couple picks and a roster piece out of prospect, I guess, out of San Jose. And they were happy to make that happen. The Sharks also have had loose conversations. I think they understand the ballpark there for Sherwood between $5 and $6 million per year seems to be where things are at. I don't think they're there yet. And this is probably a conversation, unless things have dipped from his side, that's going to wait until after the season for the San Jose Sharks. But there were other teams that were poking around, as we know. I mentioned Dallas earlier, and there were a few others that were interested in making that happen, but just didn't have the assets or weren't willing to cough up the assets for them. San Jose wins out on it. But it really was a turnaround of 48 to 72 hours, maybe 2 to 3 days at most. Once they softened things up, they said, all right, let's make this happen. San Jose stepped up with their offer, and we had that deal on Monday. I think it was a done Sunday night. Let everybody sleep on it. Let's sign off on Monday, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, we know they move quickly when they have it in their minds that something's got to happen. Great stuff, David. Thank you for the time here today and for changing days on us. We'll get back to Thursdays next week. Appreciate this, sir.
Sounds good, boys. Take care.
Sekeres and Price from the Historic Wall Center, the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio built by Arbor Lee. We start with the injury report for Sunday in Seattle. Captain Gregg Bell, brackets, hand. Questionable or probable, Greg, to cover this football game?
Thank you. I'm out of the hospital. If there was still a probable, I'd be probable, but because there isn't, I guess.
Oh, there is no probable. That's right.
I'll be there. I'm on not even on the injury list. I'll be there.
Well, the good news is that you're a tough West Point man from Steubenville, Ohio, and I'm sure you didn't whine at all this week in the presence of your wife, Wendy. Right?
No, ask Wendy. Wendy goes, "Were you in the Army? Is that true?" I mean, yeah, she thinks I bitch quite a bit, actually.
We're talking about a guy who survived like crawling through trenches in the Korean Peninsula, but was almost waylaid by a hand infection
from nothing. From
nothing, from random topical bacteria. Yeah.
Are you more probable than Cross and Jones? Is the bigger question for Seahawks.
Yeah, that's all anyone cares about. You know what? When you look at the injury report, you say, uh-oh, they got 3 left tackles not practicing. That looks bad. But Mike McDonald said that they are confident that Charles Cross is going to start. I don't get a sense anywhere around the locker room or the practice field that they're panicking or sky is falling at left tackle. But if for some reason Cross gets hurt again in the game,
right,
it wouldn't surprise me if Gray Zabel would move out to left tackle. They think that highly of him. He's played that at North Dakota State. He's an absolute stud in everything they've asked him to do. So why not play left tackle for the first time in the NFL in an NFC title game? Sure, why not?
I was wondering what the backup to the backup to the backup was.
No, but the thing is with the other 2 hurt, like your second string left guard is probably better than your 4th string left tackle.
Absolutely. And they'll just mix and match in the left guard. Yeah, exactly. Right. Jared Verse would rather be, he's going to be coming after the left tackle more than the left guard.
How's everything with Sam Darnold in that oblique, Greg?
Looks better than last week. I saw him throwing yesterday, which I didn't expect. I kept getting on McDonald about it. Does he need to throw? Is it like a pitcher in baseball where he's got to get his arm fresh between games? No, he said, well, but we'd like to see him throw. And then yesterday he threw. He didn't do much that I saw in the short time we're allowed out at the start of practice. But he was stationary, both feet on the ground, not stepping and throwing, but just turning his torso and throwing. And that's more than he did last week. After the practice, Kubiak said, looked healthy to me. Looked like the same old Sam in the limited reps he got. But he'll show up limited on the practice report, which means that Drew Lock took some of the snaps with the ones. But no, Darnold's playing. He may not need an injection, a pain-killing injection that I'm pretty sure he got last week that I thought affected him early in the game. You saw the first 20-yard pass he tried to throw was about 5 yards short of Smith and Jigba and the defender down the seam. That could have been a touchdown. And I think he had to take a while for that to wear off or for him to feel the left side of his body before he actually started throwing the ball. So because he's ahead of that from last week, he may not be in that situation on Sunday.
I know we're not supposed to get ahead of ourselves, but I can't help but think ahead to the Super Bowl. Yeah. If the Seahawks can win and a 2-week break and a chance for the Seahawks team to be even more healthy. Now, again, they can suffer injuries in this game, of course, which have yet to be reconciled.
He suffered this injury throwing against Air, Blake.
It's true. Air is difficult sometimes.
Charles got hurt in the bye week. Yeah, exactly.
Air comes at you really hard sometimes. They're always on blitz. Talk about the importance of running game. We've seen it look so good in the last month here, but that was with Thunder and Lightning. They just have Lightning right now, and like, do they like literally just have Lightning? Like, who is? We talk about how deep they are in left tackle now in terms of the injuries. Who else can run the ball right now on the roster besides Kenneth Walker?
Well, 2 different questions. Who can run the ball and who would they trust to run the ball in the NFC title game?
Yeah.
George Holani's coming back from injured reserve. It looks like he's been full go in practice all week. Okay. They'll have to make a roster move to add him. Cam Akers, the former Rams lead back, is on the practice squad. So is Velus Jones, another NFL veteran of 5 years. He's on the practice squad. Jones came up last week to be behind as the 3rd running back of the practice squad. So one of them might come up from the practice squad again. But they're not going to trust meaningful snaps for the Super Bowl to those guys. It's Kenneth Walker or bust. I think he's going to get 20-plus carries. I think he needs to. And look, I have not covered a Seahawk. I have not covered a professional athlete with more on the line in one game than Kenneth Walker. He's 25 years old, and he's unemployed the next time the Seahawks stop playing. If they lose or if they win the Super Bowl – in either 1 or 2 games, Kenneth Walker has no job. He does not have a contract beyond this year. At 25 years old at that position, he is the most motivated Seahawk of all the motivated Seahawks for this game on Sunday. He's been waiting all year for the lead role, and now he's got it because Charbonnet's out for the year. This has been a job share up to this point. They've governed his reps. Now I think that should come in handy this week, that he's more fresh than he would have been, fresher than he would have been had he been a lead back the whole time. But he's got a job to win. He's got money to make. And, man, is he motivated to go out and show out on an NFC title game in front of the whole football world.
Is that left tackle story intertwined, though? Like, can the offensive line be at its best for him?
Well, Josh Jones, when he played for Charles Cross, was the left tackle when they had the 3 best running games of the season. The last 4 games, Charles Cross has been out 3 of them. They've run for 173, 161, and 180, and then last week 175 when Cross came back and then got hurt again. They had Amari Kite, an undrafted rookie, who I think we talked about a couple weeks ago from UCF. He was playing against the 49ers, and they ran 175 yards. The outside zone they were kind of potpourri in the run all season. They did a little bit of inside, they did a little bit outside, they did some pulling, and now it's almost exclusively outside zone since the Carolina game in week 17, and it's working. Yes, they need Cross, but that is not totally imperative. Again, Gray Zabel out at left tackle, I bet they'd still run off outside zone with him. I think Walker needs to run 20 times plus. I think the Rams know that, and I think the Rams they're going to crowd the line of scrimmage and crowd the box. And I talked to some LA people down there. They're convinced the defensive game plan from Chris Shula is to take away the run and make Darnold beat him. And the Seahawks will take that because Darnold has thrown for over 4,000 yards, and he has an 1,800-yard receiver in Smith and Jigba. They have burned teams who've tried to take away their run earlier this season.
Bears ran 39 times for 106 yards last week against the Rams, had a lot of success on the outside stretch play. So as you say, Greg, outside the tackles, the exterior run could be something available to the Seahawks here.
Sorry about your Bears.
It's okay.
You've got
all gravy. All gravy.
It was unexpected joy. Unexpected
I couldn't believe they were in the divisional round at home. Took seconds to get over, Greg.
Now about those Canucks.
Oh boy, it's a whole other story. Yeah. If the Canucks season ended this week, I'd be okay with that as well.
Seconds to get over it. Yes.
Yeah. Seattle in the number one defense, the Rams in the number one offense. I mean, typically you give the advantage to the defense, Greg, but the Seahawks have not sacked Matthew Stafford since 2023. They have just 7 hits on him in 2 games this year, and he hasn't turned the ball over against them. So reconcile all that for me.
Look at you giving Dugar love. 77 dropbacks in those 2 games with no sacks. They're the only team that's happened against. They have had the secret to their success schematically on defense is they've been able to affect the quarterback with 4. And DeMarcus Lawrence has been a revelation. Yesterday, Julian Love said he's transformed the defense, and he has. He has 51 pressures by himself. Murphy and Leonard Williams have 91 combined pressures. Only Denver's duo up front is the only one that's got more than them in the NFL, the 2 defensive tackles, but they haven't done it against the Rams. The question I have for Mike McDonald's defense is, are they going to blitz more to affect Stafford? Are they going to send Witherspoon and Eamon Worry more than they have this year? Is Ernest Jones going to linebacker blitz more than they have? They haven't blitzed a lot. And McDonald's talked about how they're playing defense differently than he thought they were going to. He thought they were going to blitz more and have to blitz more to affect quarterbacks, but they haven't had to. Guys, what that has resulted in 7 guys in coverage against 4 or 5 eligible receivers, usually 4. And the math is always in McDonald's favor. But if he has to start blitzing now, that's when the advantage goes to Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. The other thing the Seahawks need to do is stop Kyron Williams and stop the first down, second down plays so it's 3rd and long instead of 3rd and short. Stafford kills teams because he doesn't get affected by pass rush when he only has to throw 3-yard outs for a first down. If he's got to throw a 3rd and 9 or 3rd and 10, he's got to hold the ball, and now you can get to him. Leonard Williams talked about how this week they got to stop early down so that it's 3rd and long, and that's the secret. That's been the secret all year to the Seahawks pressuring. They got to get him in 3rd and long. Yep. Those 2 Rams games, they were too many 3rd and shorts.
I'd love your interpretation on this because I saw a lot of this back and forth with Seahawks loyalist Rams fans this week. Seattle was -3 in the turnover margin in both the games this year. Managed to win one and had leads in the 3rd quarter of both of those games. Of course, the Rams Seattle's leads were itty-bitty. The Rams had a comfortable lead at one point in that game last month. So you tell me that the Seahawks were able to go 1-1 despite being -3 in the turnover department. I mean, usually the best indicator of who wins, right? Is that advantage Seahawks because they're able to overcome, or is that advantage Rams because they force turnovers and Seattle doesn't in this matchup?
Advantage Rams if the Seahawks turn the ball over. Look, the Seahawks are going to win the Super Bowl with their defense if their quarterback doesn't turn the ball over. You saw what they did to the 49ers in 2 straight games. Absolutely. But what it was 54 to 9 in those 2 games. Why? Darnold didn't turn the ball over 1 time. He led the NFL in 20 turnovers in the regular season, 0 against the 49ers the last 2 games, and they absolutely boat raced him. The Seahawks have a Super Bowl champion defense. They can't let their quarterback and offense screw it up. And if they here's what they did in Inglewood when they lost 21-19. The Rams only had 3 touchdowns that game. 2 of them came on drives of 4 and 25 yards. And then in the December game, another interception gave the Rams a drive start at the 1. I don't care if you have the 1985 Chicago Bears. You're not going to keep teams from scoring when their drives are first and goal at the 4 and first and goal at the 1. If Darnold doesn't turn it over, they're going to be hoisting a Lombardi trophy and having a parade down First Avenue in 3 weeks. That's the key to this whole team. They have a defense that will not allow, I don't think, the Rams or anybody else to drive 80, 75-plus yards multiple times for touchdowns in a game. The Rams have scored 7 touchdowns in 2 games against the Seahawks. 3 of them just gifted to him by Darnold's turnovers for drives of 1, 4, and 25. I don't see the Stafford and the Rams marching down the field 70-plus at the end of punts and kickoffs for multiple touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And I think 3 touchdowns win the game for Seattle.
Last one for me are the 12s back. We saw some noise issues last week. Can they do it? Does it feel like old school 12 vibes there at Lumen Field?
Blake, when Rashid Shaheed returned that kickoff for a touchdown to begin the game the other night, the press box swayed and shook and rumbled. And it was the loudest and the most the press box has shaken since 2014 Legion of Boom, the last Super Bowl team. Mm-hmm. I had not heard that stadium that loud since then. Yes, and that's what winning does. They were complaining about the fans and selling their ticket. Win the damn games. And if you win games and get to the NFC title game, of course you're going to have a home field advantage, and that's what they've got again. That it's a big deal. And the players are expecting, even Cooper Kupp, who'd never played a home game in Seattle with the noise, he was blown away. He said he's never had an environment to play in like that. It's going to be a factor on Sunday. It's going to affect the Rams' play calling and signal calling before the snap. It's a huge advantage for Seattle. It's why you get the number 1 seed. I think it's going to be a factor, winning factor on Sunday.
If it was any other person, I would say too soon for an ex-coach to raise the 12th man flag on Sunday. Mm-hmm. But as we know, Pete Carroll's a special guy and a Seattle resident, and we know he's not coaching again. I've heard Carroll. I've heard Marshawn Lynch. I've heard the owner, Jody Allen. What do you think is in store for the symbolic raising of the 12th man flag? Of course, always a highlight in advance of any Seahawks game at Lumen.
Knowing Pete Carroll as I do, I don't think Pete Carroll would come and step on Mike Macdonald's show. This is Macdonald's time. He's built this already, and it's his. And I don't think Carroll would be – he's probably on his big island of Hawaii house right now watching from afar. Precedent says it's going to be Jody Allen. When they've gone to the NFC Championship game in the past, it was Paul Allen who raised the flag. I would expect that's who it is. Marshawn Lynch would be the one that people would go absolutely nuts for. Mm-hmm. Knowing Marshawn Lynch, he might just drag the flag onto midfield and raise it from the middle of midfield.
That's right. I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
If you pin me down, I'd have to say it's probably Jody Allen.
Okay. Well, this stadium has hosted 3 NFC Championship games in the past, and 2 of them rank amongst the 10 best title games, conference title games in NFL history, according to NFL Network. Of course, there was the 2013 game against San Francisco when they tried the best corner in the game with a sorry receiver like Crabtree. Greg, I'm still not over that. Oh, the temerity of San Francisco thinking you could test Sherm. And then, of course, the 2014 game, which if you were designing a game for a neutral fan, this one had every single element against Green Bay. Comebacks, overtime, the fake field goal touchdown from the Canadian punter, John Ryan, throwing to an offensive lineman. You had an onside kick recovery in that game. You had that desperate 2-point heave from Russell to Luke Wilson, the other Canadian. And then, of course, game-tying field goal and the walk-off touchdown on a deep contested pass in overtime. What's your sense, Greg? Are we talking about a third all-timer at Lumen in the NFC Championship?
And we were talking about this being the Super Bowl, too. Like this is to decide who wins the Super Bowl, isn't it?
I think so. I think these are the two best teams remaining. I think this is the Super Bowl, and I do think it's going to come down to the end. And given the stakes, the noise, the setting, yes, I think we're going to be remembering this as another all-time classic, just like that 38-37 game was. That Packers-Seahawks, that was one of the more inexplicable games I've ever covered. John Ryan, the kid from Saskatchewan, Pete Carroll never called fake kicks. He absorbed them. He didn't want anything to do with them. Down 16-0, he does it. And, yeah, the 2-point play to Luke Wilson. And that was improbable, to say the least. Part of the reason the NFL changed the overtime rules was because of that game. Russell Wilson took the opening kickoff of overtime and drove him down the field, and Aaron Rodgers never got a chance to touch the ball, and the Packers lost. I think it's going to be something like that. I think Matthew Stafford with his no-look passes, this is going to be, like I said, the Seahawks would have rather played the Bears. Let's put it that way. But
yeah,
having said that, again, they have a defense to win the Super Bowl. The environment is going to be off the hook. You're probably going to be able to hear them from your porches up there in the Vancouver area, how loud it's going to be. That last week, by the way, the only other crowd that the raucous nature of the crowd was the 2010 gold medal match in Vancouver GM place, or whatever, the Canada place they called it. Canada and the U.S. and Sidney Crosby's golden goal that I happened to be 7 rows off the ice to watch press row for the Associated. That's the only other time that I can remember something being that off the hook inside of a sports stadium as it was last week, and it's probably going to be like that Sunday.
And we know who you were cheering for.
Yeah.
Your boy, Sidney Crosby, right?
Keep it between us. Keep it between us.
And if it was the Bears, Greg, we'd be having dinner tomorrow night.
Yes,
so,
yes, you would.
alas,
Yes, we would. Yes,
we'll
we
miss you, but thank you for this, sir. Get well, in advance of this game, and very much looking forward to it. Catch up soon.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep, happy weekend. Thanks, guys.
Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center, and this segment brought to you by Hurley with Levelware. New partners here on Sick Harrison Price. Welcome to them. Golf having a moment right now, not just in the traditional sense. Used to feel so buttoned up, become way more cultural. You're seeing athletes from basketball, hockey, football players, even surfers using it as a way to hang out, just enjoy the game differently. And that shift is exactly where Hurley's collaboration with Levelware comes in. Hurley brings that laid-back board sports energy, and the collection pulls inspiration from Hawaiian and coastal prints, relaxed, expressive, rooted in lifestyle. Levelware takes that inspiration and brings it to life through performance-driven, sustainably made apparel that's actually built to move and play. The result? The Fairwaves Collection, modern golf silhouettes that feel lighter, more wearable, and less rigid. It's respectful of the game's roots, but definitely not stuck in tradition. This collection live available on Levelware's website. Go to levelware.com. Check out the polos, hoodies, hats, and casuals. That's levelware.com. And we're very much looking forward to getting our hands on some of that great gear from Hurley with Levelware. Okay, we discussed the Seahawks and Rams game. Time to dig a little bit deeper here, Blake, and get into pedigree of all things, like this was a horse race. Now, we all know Sean McVay is the grandson of the legendary 49ers executive John McVay. Sam Darnold's grandfather, a former Marlboro man named Dick Hammer.
Sorry, what now?
His grandfather was the Marlboro man. His name, Dick Hammer. Richard Bernard Hammer, not a porn star. He played basketball at USC. He competed in the '64 Olympics in volleyball. He got into acting and firefighting after his time at school. He became the Marlboro man, and he passed away in 1999, Blake, from, you guessed it, lung cancer.
Of course.
His grandson, Samuel Richard Darnold, tries to win the NFC Championship game Sunday, and the Seahawks QB carries his middle name after Grandpa, Dick Hammer, from his mother's side. And as this QB Gammy account points out, missed opportunity here for Dick Hammer Jr. or Dick Hammer III. Dick Hammer, perfect porn name. If Sam went by his middle name, Dick Darnold, that would work too.
Not as well.
What could possibly work as well as Dick Hammer?
Although Dick Darnold, his initials are Double D.
Double D.
A little too on the nose.
The 50s and 60s must have been a much different time in this world where you could walk around life with the name Dick Hammer.
Yeah. And no one questions it.
Honestly. And yeah, you're the cowboy, the Marbo.
My dad had a buddy back in the day, and his name was Cliff Dick.
Oh, wow.
And it really doesn't mean anything. Like there's nothing sexual in and of itself, but we laughed every time my dad mentioned his name.
My mom had a friend named Crystal. She married a man named John Ball. She became Crystal Ball.
Pretty good.
John Schneider is the Professional Football Writers Association NFL Executive of the Year. We talked about the great work Schneider, the GM of the Seahawks, had done at the draft table last year and beyond, and free agency as well. We just heard Gregg Bell talk about DeMarcus Lawrence and what he has brought to the team. Jesse Minter is the next coach of the Baltimore Ravens. He was the Los Angeles Chargers defensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh this past year, was also a Harbaugh assistant at the University of Michigan when they won their national championship 2 years ago. So that Harbaugh family coaching tree in the Michigan-Baltimore pipeline continues even in a post-John Harbaugh world with the Ravens. Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Las Vegas, Cleveland, Arizona remain the head coaching vacancies in the National Football League. Pupa, we hardly knew ya. According to Aymar Vanden, a Belgian soccer journalist, Vancouver Whitecaps FC center back Jodrik Pupa is going to go on loan for the rest of the season with a Belgian team in the second division who are going to have the option to purchase if they want to keep him.
It's a recently relegated team that is trying to earn promotion back to the top and are doing so. They're in good shape to do that. So they're shoring up their roster to gain entry back into the top flight Belgian league.
We feel better about the Caps at center back. Of course, Ranko Veselinovic will return from injury, although not
immediately.
Early. Yeah. You have MLS Defender of the Year there, Tristan Blackman. You have Matias Laborda, who's able to play there. And, of course, then the incredible transition of Ralph Priso from defensive midfield.
Who might be a Canadian center back when all is said and done.
Who has shown so well there. So it was a position of depth for Vancouver.
Did you mention Sebastian Schonlau? He's still there, too.
If he's ever healthy, Schonlau was there as well. It's important because Vancouver need to clear out some roster spots. Axel had talked about 3 to 4 more players, and they don't have that roster space available. So I think that's one of the things that spurred this Pupa transfer on. We have news from Canada Soccer, kind of out of left field because I think everybody had forgotten about this. Former Canadian women's national team head coach Kenneth Walker is the new sporting director national teams for Canada Soccer. That's right. They had a vacancy at sporting director heading into a World Cup here. It's been a vacancy for what?
A year.
That's unreal.
So, yeah, we kind of I thought they had just decided against putting anybody in that position. I figured that they
restructured the organization.
Just doled out duties differently and just didn't bother filling it. Well, no, boom. He's back into the fold. And he's had some very useful experience here since he left as Canadian women's national team coach. He's been spending the last year with San Diego FC, helping to build them into an MLS Cup contender immediately.
He had held a similar role with Denmark. He is being charged with, quote, develop an overarching, systemized technical approach for Canadian football. His wife, Anya, is the head coach of the Northern Super League champion, Vancouver Rise.
Yeah, so I would guess that he probably lives here.
I would suspect he lives here.
Yeah.
Canada soccer should be based here. Like everything soccer should be based here.
Play on grass year-round.
Yeah.
It's
In fact, everything baseball should be based here as well. It's ridiculous that Baseball Canada exists
in Ottawa?
in a downtown Ottawa office surrounded by the federal bureaucracy.
So strange.
Come on out to UBC. Base yourself here.
UBC or Nat Bailey, for that matter.
Yeah, they're refurbished.
Yeah.
Nat Bailey. We talked about a new Vancouver player for the Canadian men's national team in this last friendly against, who was it again?
Guatemala?
Guatemala.
Yeah.
That's right. And by Vancouver, I mean a Vancouver guy, not a Whitecap. Thiago Coimbra was slated to join Vanni Sartini with CPL's Halifax, but the word now is that he's going to go off to Sweden and join a first division team in Gothenburg. Now, the Caps were interested in this guy as well. He's a striker.
Yep. The reports,
And he's got, what, Brazilian training? Like born in Brazil and then moved here?
He's a dual national, but trained in the Palmeiras Academy when he was younger. Well, he's still young. He's only 22. And he actually played with the name Canada on the back.
Right. That was his nickname, and that's what they put on the back of his jersey, because in Brazil, you can just put anything on the back of a
Hulk.
jersey. Hulk. Well, remember they had a guy, Fred?
Yeah.
I'm like, Fred who? Fred what?
I don't even know
Hundreds
if
of
Fred was
millions
his
of
name.
people in Brazil. Fred?
Yeah.
That's it? That's all he needs?
I actually know a Brazilian Fred. He doesn't play soccer, but. Yeah.
And then there's this. When this so-called golden generation of Canadian men's players started, one of the key guys was Steven Eustáquio, core player.
Mm-hmm.
Well, years later, he's at a crossroads in his club career. Observers of Canadian soccer saying he needs to leave Porto immediately. He has been an unused sub in 6 of the last games for the big Portuguese. It's a very big club, Porto. But he's barely played any meaningful minutes all season, Blake. Didn't play in a Europa League game yesterday. Now, Canada has more options than they would have when Eustáquio first joined the national team. Ishmael Kone, Nathan Saliba, Burnaby's Nico Segur. So he's not exactly as critical as he was yesteryear, but boy, it'd be nice if we had a midfielder who was actually playing and on form come the World Cup. Apparently his family loves Porto. Great. But the transfer window for MLS is open as of today. And I do think there will be some eyes on Eustáquio to see does Porto want him anymore?
For family reasons, he apparently does quite like living there at the very least. But if there's ever a year to plead with your team for a loan,
right,
is this the year in a World Cup year?
Attacking mid, defensive mid, we're wing, we're like
generally on the attack. He can be a linking midfielder as well. He's a box to box guy. He can play in sort of both positions, 6 and an 8. But he needs playing time, that's for sure.
With how bad TFC and Montreal are, is there not playing time?
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially if TSC wants to bounce back, and they do need to get the attention of their fan base again.
Oh my gosh,
he's a Toronto guy, so
yeah. Victoria Mboko with a 3-set win over a seeded Dane in round 3 of the Aussie Open. She lost opportunities aplenty to end this thing in 2 sets, but hung on and advanced against number 17 Clara Towson. Up next, the number 1 seed and 4-time Grand Slam champion Aryna Sabalenka. That goes Sunday. And I noticed this from John Wertheim, and John Wertheim has had a very big career in journalism. He was a Sports Illustrated writer back when SI was still a big publication. He's been an author of some fantastic books. He's covered tennis for a long time. He now works for 60 Minutes, does pieces for CBS News in 60 Minutes. He mentioned a year ago, age 18, she's playing outside of the top 300 in an itty-bitty tournament in Rome, Georgia. And after this Australian Open, it is quite conceivable that Vicky Mboko is going to be a top 10 ranked player in the world, Blake, at age 19.
Yeah, it's great. I think she, like, you just look at her, you're like sometimes they look too big to be mobile. Sometimes they look too skinny, like a Leila Fernandez, to be strong enough and powerful. She just looks like she's the perfect
the package. Yep.
You know, like she's the perfect mix of everything.
A number of years ago, Tom Tebbett, who's kind of the authority of Canadian tennis, a longtime writer, author, said to me, when I evaluate these up-and-coming Canadian tennis players, he goes, rightfully or wrongfully, I give more credence to the ones that are tall.
Yeah.
Just because of the angles that they can create with the serve and the velocity that they can
and obvious
create
reach
with and then the reach
advantages.
advantages. Yeah. And no, she is a player. She's been great fun to watch. We'll see.
And just
how she goes.
What a great demeanor too. I like she's just emotional enough. She's just calm enough, stoic enough. Like I really do.
She was calmer than me when she was blowing those match points and those break points in the second set.
That's why I can't watch Shapo anymore.
I'm sitting there going, "Put this thing away, Vicky."
Like nothing that Shapovalov does gives you any confidence that he can be a champion.
Yeah.
And Felix has got the right temperament. I like Felix a lot, but he's got to show it.
Vancouver Goldeneyes beat Toronto 5-0 before 14,000 at the Coliseum last night. A much-needed win for Brian Adalski's club as they head into the final week before the Olympic break. Two more games, both on the road, before their season, the PWHL season, pauses as well.
I watched some of that game on TV. The atmosphere was spectacular. Like,
well, we're going to hear from this guy on the atmosphere.
He was there?
Mike?
You went to this one?
First time, right?
I sure did. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been there since the Giants, but I was at a Canucks game 2 or 3 weeks ago, and this was so different in every single way. Like, goals were scored.
Yes, there's that.
Well, there's that.
People were happy.
Home team won. What did you make of the game presentation and the vibe at the Coliseum?
Again, very different, but it was awesome. Like, it was actually awesome. It was definitely geared towards kids a little bit more, lots of sing-alongs. Again, I went to the concession. I came back with 2 beers, a hot dog, and nachos for less than the price of a beer at a Canucks game.
Wow.
So
yeah,
it was amazing. It was awesome.
I'll say this, the Coliseum is showing so well. I mean, we talked about the big logo at center ice. Also, you look up and you look at the roof and how it's all refurbished. It's got a little bit of the Davos feel in there.
Yeah, it's different than every new arena that you see.
That's it.
But I loved the buildup. Like anytime they were in the offensive zone, like the din rose for a middle of the season game. Like this is not a playoff game, but the din was there of people just excited. What's coming up next? And I'm glad that they reinforced that with 5 goals. That's great.
Well, and they needed a win, as we had talked about. They have been the worst team, of course, an expansion team, but yes, they have been the worst team in the PWHL this season. Vancouver now with 4 wins, 7 losses, 1 overtime win, 1 overtime loss. So they're 16 points. They're tied with their expansion cousin Seattle right now, but Seattle has a couple of games in hand. Sarah Nurse with a couple of goals, a 2-point night for Teresa Vanisova, and backup goaltender Kristen Campbell with 24 saves for the shutout. Needed that, Vancouver Goldeneyes. We've talked about how they have a big homestand that starts March 1st after the Olympic break. Results of yesterday's poll question, Blake. Who is the must-keep veteran to lead the Canucks rebuild? The options here were Brock Boeser, Jake DeBrusk, Filip Hronek, Elias Paterson. The people voted for
Hronek.
Indeed. Percentage?
66.
72.
Ooh.
Elias got 14.5. Brock got 12. Jake just 1.4. We probably should have had Garland instead of Jake as an option. Put that on Easonos. Chuck says, I voted Brock because he's the only one on the list that doesn't really net a return. Hronek is great, but I'd love a Hughes light package. So yeah, I saw a lot of that. James, Hronek for sure, and maybe Brock only because you can't trade everyone. Jake Garland, EP40, if he wants to go in camp, might get us some much-needed draft picks. young up-and-comers. Ivy says she would keep Besser, DeBrusk, and Hronek. And Trevor, none of the above. If a lights-out offer comes in for any of them and they waive their trade protection, management should be ready and willing to make a deal. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program and beyond. Brian Trottier was a 6-time Stanley Cup winner. He got both in Pittsburgh after the 4 in a row with the New York Islanders. We were talking about the highest scoring second-round picks in NHL history with Jeff Merrick yesterday, and Brian Trottier tops them all.
It's a good resume. I don't think we doubted that anyhow, but
yeah. I called him a 4 and then a 5-time Stanley Cup champion. I was like, nope, there he is. He's stuck around, actually.
Do you remember what it looks like to, I don't remember. I remember what it looked like to watch Bossy. I don't remember what Trottier did well.
Tremendous two-way centerman. More setup guy than finisher. Of course, he had Bossy on a wing, so.
Yeah. But it's just funny.
You weren't going to shoot the puck when Mike Bossy could shoot the puck.
Career totals, he is way near the top.
1,400 points.
But I cannot visualize his game. It's funny.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of Islanders games on TV back then, except for the playoffs.
Until the Stanley Cup final. Yeah. There was a lot of playoff games on
yeah.
back in the day. NHL records that will never be broken. They won 19 consecutive playoff series. 19 consecutive playoff series. Their bid for a 5th straight Stanley Cup went down to defeat versus the Edmonton Oilers. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Costs you nothing. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.